I am so proud and so excited, and I can't wait to teach you everything that I've come to learn as a newbie. Hey friends, it's your good friend Tim Campbell Smith, and today I am both talking about my experience, but also teaching you what I learned from my experience getting my first ever art show. I applied for it and I got an art show to display my photography for a month at, we're gonna call it like kind of a gallery space, kind of a workspace, which we'll talk about. And I kind of wanted to capture this from a newbie, because all the other videos I looked up on this were from people who had done this once or twice or many other times, and it was like, I want to hear from like the newbies when it's still fresh in their memory. So I'm sharing this while it's not even fresh in my memory. At the time of recording, it is happening. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for all things photography, mental health, business, higher ed, and life. I'm gonna walk you through kind of like everything that happened and all the parts of the process that I've come to see as part of getting and doing an art show. So you kind of have to start by like knowing what's possible and where you can exhibit your work. This was a place that I was already familiar with, that I actually had an office there many years ago, and I knew that they did art exhibitions a month at a time and you could apply for an art exhibition. I don't know what possessed me, but I was like, I just remember thinking like, wouldn't that be just so cool? Like, they would never give it to me, but like, wouldn't that just be so cool? And these places, many places will take applications at one time of the year prior for exhibitions for the entire coming year. So this was my case. I think the call opened up in like October of 2023 for 2024 showings. And I applied. I already had an idea of a concept of what I would do. More on that later. And so I knew I would need as much time as possible. So in I think it was October 2023, I applied for a show to happen in December of 2024. With this, I did discover, and have since discovered because of applying to other shows, you have to have a concept to apply with. I'm learning in the world of art, it is important, it is crucial to be working on art based on a series of concepts or themes. Sometimes spaces will want to see examples of the work you'd use, they may want to see previous examples, or they might want descriptions of what you're going to create. When I applied for this, I didn't really have any photos that would get used. So what I did was I had what I thought was a really strong concept that was really fleshed out. I had a lot of details because in my mind, I was so vivid what I wanted to do. More on that, I'll tell you what it is in a bit. And then I just showed them examples of my work and said, like, my photography tends to focus on color and contrast as storytelling devices. And so I showed them examples. And I even got feedback that they said, we thought, the place that's letting me show this, they had said, we granted you this exhibition because your concept was so strong and we liked your work and your samples of work, which made us confident that you would deliver something excellent. And that's what led me to my concept. So let's talk about what my show is about. So, kind of hard to see. This is my didactic. Again, more on what that is in a little bit. So this is displaying at my show, and it explains what my show is. So my exhibition is called Guelph But. Basically, I was born, raised, have lived, worked, and played in every corner of the city of Guelph. And I got into digital marketing, and when I got into digital marketing, I saw that if you search up images of Guelph, you will almost exclusively only get images of downtown, the Basilica we have, which is downtown and parts of downtown, or the university. But because of my experience with the city, I know that our city is far larger and more interesting than that and is expansive. And I want people to see how beautiful and interesting Guelph is, but not just downtown or the university. So that's why it's called Guelph But. The exhibition is 16 photos. I did actually shoot more photos. I ended up with closer to 30 photos. But the way it worked in for hanging, only 16 went into the show, of And the photos are from all the corners of the city during every season, so people can. And what I've done to make the show a little more interesting is I don't tell people where they are in Guelph. They kind of have to guess, they have to play to it, or they have to go find it. So that was my show, Guelph But, where I wanted to feature something local. Guelph notoriously loves local, and we love to support local. So I kind of wanted to play to that ethos that I thought of the city. And I call this exhibition my love letter to the city. Back to the process of your show. So basically, you apply for it, you wait, and assuming the process continues along, we're gonna say you get the show. When you get the show, I was kind of surprised by kind of the technicalities right out of the gate. So the contract, and then reading the contract, which you have to do, which will state things like, how does your reception work? What's the commission that the space gets if they sell your work? Do they sell your work? How do they handle if you don't want to sell the work? Stuff like that. I kind of take this approach that, like, you can't really refute legal terms from major corporations, so I just signed and made sure to take note of the rules and sent it off, and away we went. Once you've agreed to everything, this is where things kind of get funny, is like, now you're in the period between the agreement, you know you have a show, and when the show actually happens. For me, this was a very intentional time. It was over a year because I knew I needed to shoot the show. I actually needed to go take those photographs of the city during all 4 seasons. We were starting in winter. I had a bit of a buffer because I knew I'd start shooting in winter, but I knew, like, if we're hanging in the show's in December, if I really needed, I could use, November as a winter. Now, I also have to say, this year, November turned out to not be terribly snowy and not terribly winter looking. So very glad that I got the winter shots that I needed and that they worked, because I didn't actually have access to the winter that I thought I would. But some people already have the pieces. So if you already have the pieces, or you only have to create, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 pieces, then it's a lot easier, and it's just kind of this, like, weird waiting game. During this time, and because I had to create my art, I don't know about you, but I love a good spreadsheet. So I built a spreadsheet of what to shoot, how to shoot it, seasons. Also because part of my concept, I was so clear in wanting equal representation of all parts of the city and every season of the year. So it was kind of like building this puzzle and making sure that I shot it according to that puzzle so that it would fit my final vision. Now, I also can't turn off my marketing brain, and I can't take off my marketer hat, so I also used this time to do some strategic, like, marketing planning to figure out how I would make this successful. So I did, like, costing and cost analysis. That's how I then decided, like, yes, I'm gonna sell the prints, and I tried to find an average price for the print. So I was like, okay, I think this is both a price people will pay, but also I will be able to sell enough pieces to make back all my costs, and then I'll be good to go. It also involved party planning for my reception, because my venue provides a few things for the reception, but then I have to plan for other parts of the reception. So I did that in that weird in-between time, as well as shooting the photos for my show. So then I shot the show. I had to start thinking about how I would hang it and how it would display, because that would impact how it would get printed. So at this point, I kind of did some of the more monotonous tasks, like you can see here. So, like, I printed the show. I had figured out rough sizes of the photos that I would want. I added, like, a gamified element to it. So I have sticky notes. On one side, the side that faces out, people see a question that says, where do you think this photo is? And if you want, you can kind of flip it so that you can see, like, where was this photo actually taken? So people can go explore those parts of the city. But then, like, the frames that I bought, I had to like remove all the stickies, and I had to, like, dismember them and then put them back together and put the photos in, and that was a very monotonous task. Not looking forward to having to do that in perpetuity, but I guess it's in the nature of the beast. This is also when I wrote, my mentor, she has her Master's of Fine Art. She calls this a didactic. That sounds very fancy. So I also did the write-up of the show, and I put it in the same kind of frame as many of the photographs are in, so that people, when they come to the show, they can read about, like, it's about the show, basically. It's a funny story about this. It's kind of hard to tell if you look here. I wrote this is in 14-point font on an 8.5 by 11 page in one frame. Originally it was 12-point font and I thought it was kind of small, so I worried about it. My partner encouraged me to do 14-point font, keep it to one page. But I go and I see the shows that have been at the space and they used tinier font, more text, and was even smaller. So choices were made. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm a pretty wordy person though, so anything that forces me to be a little more concise is always a good thing. So I also wrote out my didactic to go with the show so that people can read kind of what the show is about before or after looking at the photos. So I print the photos, I frame the photos, and then we get to hanging. I had checked out the space a couple times just to plan for how to hang. I have to admit, at the time of recording, I don't actually, I don't have for you to include in this video, videos of hanging it, but I had looked at the space, and I've got some photos of that here. So I knew roughly how I was going to hang the show. And then we actually had to go and hang it and load in and install. I should note here as well for you, some places, some venues will hang your work for you. They will decide how it gets hung and displayed. Other places, you have to do it yourself. This exhibition, I had to do it myself and plan for it myself. I thought I knew how I was gonna hang it. And then, I mean, let's talk about next you load in. If there's anything I learned from loading in, it's that even the best laid plans will have hiccups, and plan for those hiccups. So like we had some challenges with like with getting the spacing right, and also the way that I wanted things to like hang and how I wanted it even, or did I want it like mixed. So there's like, no matter how well you plan, some surprises and some things will just come up when you're actually hanging it. But it was super exciting, and oh my God, I don't know if there's anything more fulfilling than that moment when it is hung and you see your work on exhibition and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my art. From there, we did the finishing touches on the reception. So typically shows will have some kind of reception. I always think of opening receptions and focus on opening receptions. Some artists will do a closing reception, so their reception or their event is towards the end of the exhibition. Totally up to you. So for mine, I did try to do an event, mainly so I could collect emails. Again, as a marketer, I know how important it is to be collecting emails. This is also, I had sent out food, I had sent out a press release, I'd invited, because my art show was so locally focused, I'd invited political leaders from the area who may be interested in the city, and just had an opening reception. At the time of recording, truthfully, we are close to the reception. It has not happened yet. I'm so excited to just see how people interact with the space. They're already interacting with the space. People are already seeing the art. But for me to be in that space with them and to hear their feedback and to see what they think of it, I am so excited for. I think I kind of want to leave you with this towards the end, and this is something my mentor has taught me, especially as you know, this show is happening now. The art doesn't stop with the show. I ended up taking close to 30 photos that I was really proud of the whole city. Definitely some parts of the city were more and better represented than others. And my mentor had taught me, like, it doesn't stop there. You can keep shooting. You can keep shooting for this show if you do the show again. If I can get the show in a bigger venue for a longer period of time, it doesn't have to end there. You can keep going with the theme. So I think I will keep shooting for this theme. Not as intentionally, not as rigorously as I did over this past year, but the art you create and the theme you explore and how you show it and just showing it, it doesn't have to stop with that one show. So I plan to keep going with this theme of interesting things to see in Guelph, but not just the downtown or the university. Comment and let me know. Did any of this surprise you or intrigue you? Or if you have any tips for doing art shows, please comment them and so we can kind of, as a community, share that wisdom. As always, make sure to like and subscribe for all things higher ed, business, mental health, photography, and life. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye for now.